In this video, I will teach you how a relative max mean or saddle point look like on a function with two variables. These are the points that we will study in more details in the later videos, and we will see that, well, we have good tools to detect those ones. But to start with, I just wanted to start with function with one variable. It's the things that you already know. If f of x is a differentiable function, then we had two important points on the graph of the function. When we had these points, which are relative a minimum point of the function, or points like this, which are called relative max. Well, and we know that in calculus with one variable, to find those ones, we need to do find the critical points and then use the tests we have, the first derivative or second derivative test. But in the functions with two variables, first we need to see how these points look like. So if f x y is a differentiable function, then a point like, okay, you see here in function with one variable, it is like this, but in two dimension, the graph of function is like surface. So the local mean for these functions, they they look like minimum in a surface. So it's uh, let me just write the relative mean minimum point, and well, it is like the bottom of valley. Yes, it is just down there. And for relative max, we have this kind of shape. Well, this is basically two-dimensional version of this guy. Over there, the function had only one variable. Here, the function has two variables, and this is how does it look like. But in the same lines, there is also another kind of points that we will study. It will come up, and in some ways, it's new in two dimension. It will in function with two variables. For the function with one variable, we didn't have this situation. And what is that? These are the points that, let me draw it here, that when you move in one direction, it is minimum, and if you move in another direction, it is maximum. Well, if I want to draw it such that you can imagine how this thing is. Oops. So it is like the horse saddle, and it has actually the same name, saddle point. Well, what I like to say these days, you see something more often than saddle that looks like this, and it is the Pringles chips. It's like a Pringles chips at that point at some in some direction. In this direction it is local or relative mean. In another direction like this it's called it is relative max. But when you look at that, it's neither of this form, is not up hilltop, or it's not like valley bottom. So it is a different kind of point and we have to know that. Well, these are just the graphs how they look like. In later in next two videos I will have more details of how where these things can happen, how we can say a point is a saddle point or relative max or relative